Today, welcome everyone. My name is Carrie Ann Sparks and I'm an ed tech down at the Georgetown campus. And I have some other co-hosts with me who I'll ask to introduce themselves really quick. And then we will get started talking about D2L Basics. So let's just go up the state. Pauline, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Pauline Sturgeon. I am another educational technologist, and I am currently here at the Terry campus.
And I guess I'm next up to state. Albert Unrath here at Wilmington. Looking forward to seeing some of you in face-to-face in person.
I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm at Stanton. I'm Laura Thompson, and I am a learning strategies coordinator, but I do a lot of different things. So let me know if you need anything.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the basics of D2L. So if you are someone who either hasn't used D2L or would like a refresher on, what are the main aspects and how do you kind of make it work for you and your students, then this is a great session for you. Okay, so we are going to get started. We're going to talk about three main topics today: navigating through D2L, looking through your course, and adding content. So I would suggest that if you haven't already to sign on to my DTCC so that you can kind of follow along with us as we embark on this journey to explore D2L. So our first topic is just how do we get there and how do we use it? So when you log on to my DTCC, you are taken to a page that looks like this. This is known as the portal. And so you will see that there are a lot of college announcements there. On the left-hand side of the page is a blue navigation bar. And there are several options, including one to get to your courses in D2L. So you want to go ahead and click on that in order to get to our favorite place in the world, D2L.
Well, and one thing to add to that, Marianne, remember someone mentioned that sometimes students don't realize that little menu can expand. So they just see the little icons there and you have to kind of mouse over it to get it to expand.
Right, exactly. So if you have students telling you, how do I find D2L? I don't see it. That might be the problem, is that they are not navigating over to that left-hand side in order to see that expansion. And D2L, if you don't know, stands for Desire to Learn and is owned by the company Brightspace. So sometimes when you're looking at information, you will see things referred to as Brightspace. Don't think that you're in the wrong spot. That just means that it's the parent company of D2L. So when you navigate and you've chosen courses /D2L on the homepage, it's going to bring you to a new tab, which is D2L Homepage. And there is a bunch of information there, and we are going to kind of talk about a few of those pieces. In the top left-hand corner, which is labeled number 1, that will always take you back to the Del Tech homepage. So if you need to go back, that will take you there. Number 2 is My Courses. And you will see that you might have a lot of options when you get there. If you've been teaching at Del Tech for a while, or if you've taken courses at Del Tech for a while, you're going to have more than one list. So you want to make sure, and what we can do here is we can just go to D2L to kind of show this example, how you are going to have, because I work in CCIT, I have access to all the courses, but you'll see that I am right now on fall 2022. Now, sometimes, just the other day, I navigated to D2L and for some reason I was in spring 2022. And I was very confused because the courses I was looking for were not there. So if you have momentary confusion or your students are saying that they can't find their courses, make sure that you are in the correct tab up here at the top. One of the things that you can, go ahead, Laura.
There's also an all tab all the way to the left. But I love that you showed people the individual tabs, Carrie Ann, because I had worked with someone before that they had the all and they just couldn't find anything because there was too much to look through. So by you talking about the fall 2022, it's so nice because it helps narrow it down to just the courses that are that semester.
Another helpful tool in D2L, especially if you are an instructor who has a lot of courses, is to be able to pin your courses to the top. So you'll see I have several courses that I am either teaching or part of that I've pinned to the top of my courses page. That way, every time I come to D2L, those are at the top for me. This helps me just be a little bit more organized. And even if I go into fall 2022, I still have those courses pinned to the top. And the way to do that is you just click on the course, you click these three little dots here, and then you can choose to pin them. Some of your courses, as when they're open, will have these notifications down here, these red circles that have numbers on them. And what those are is that is telling you that something has happened in your course. So a student has either participated in a discussion or they've turned in an assignment. And you can just navigate there and just click on that number to see what assignments have been turned in or what discussion posts have been posted. So that helps you kind of, if you want to get that shortcut right to grading. Okay, more parts of D2L. So if we're back at our homepage, these 9 squares at the top are referred to as the Waffle. And what they do is they also help with organization. It allows you to search, so you can search for a course. And it also brings up your pinned courses and all the courses that you've recently viewed. So if I am helping an instructor and I can't remember what course, I go back and see, oh yes, I was helping with this drug and alcohol counseling course. I remember now, because all the courses that I've recently visited are right there. And then if I need to search, if I want to look for English 101, I search and then it gives me all of this. So I probably got to be more specific because there's a lot of English 101 choices there. Also on the home page, you're going to see several kind of what we call widgets, but several squares or rectangles that have special use and special purpose. Number 5 is learning with technology. And this is actually not on the instructor's homepage, but it is on the student's homepage. And this is a wonderful resource that CCIT has created for students as a way to teach them about the technology that we use. So when your students might have a question about how do they submit assignments or how do they see their schedule, then you can refer them to Learning with Technology, which is going to be on their homepage. And if you want to access it, you can as well. You're just going to go to the help in the navigation bar, which I'll show you in a second. So that are going to possibly be on your homepage, the quick eval widget, which again will show you all your courses and whether or not anyone has submitted assignments that need to be graded, the CCIT newsletter where you can find tons of great information, and then the Brightspace support widget. So remember we said D2L is the same as Brightspace. So if you need help using D2L, or if your students need help using D2L, this is a great resource. Not only do they have FAQs, but they also have a 24/7 helpline that you can call. So, we know that our students like to I got an email from a student at 11 o'clock last night asking how they find something. And I am not up to answer that email, but if they did call the helpline is up. So that is kind of how our different home pages look. So faculty and students have different looking home pages, but they do have a lot of the same information on there. So speaking of the help button, if you are in your D2L homepage, at the top is an option for help. And what it does is give you not only Dell Tech specific help, but also D2L or Brightspace help. We have the Learning with Technology there. We have the Virtual Support Center, so you can get IIT help. And then at the bottom are the content reports. And what this is a super useful tool because D2L collects a lot of data about your courses, about what students do in the courses and how they access them. So this is a place for you to kind of check out and see how students are using your courses, what pages they're focusing on, what pages they're kind of skipping to help you better adjust to meet your students' needs. One of the great resources that CCIT has built is the D2L Instructor Hub. So if you haven't checked that out yet, It goes through kind of step by step the resources and the content that you need to help you build and teach a course at Deltec. And again, that is available at that help button. Now what we're going to do is look at a course to see within the course, how is everything organized? First, we were just talking about D2L in general, the home pages. Now we're going to get into the course. So the very top of your course is called the Minibar. And again, it has a ton of tools that you can use. So you'll see you can link to the Deltec homepage, you can link to the course homepage. We've got the course selector there. We have messages. D2L allows students and instructors to send not only email back and forth, but also instant messages. This may be something you want to address with your students, because our students are kind of the Amazon era and feel like if they message someone, they're going to get a message right back. But if they message you again at 2 a.m., you're probably not on D2L to message them back. So let them know that that feature is available, but that you may not be able to instantly reply to them. Number 5 is subscription alerts. So if you have, for example, subscribed to a discussion, then you will get a message letting you know that a new post has been made in that discussion. For number 6, the little bell is notification, so updates on grades and announcements. 7 is your username, and this also allows you access to your profile and account settings. So you want to take some time and go in there and see if your account settings are correct, if you'd like to change them. Do you want to get notifications, for example, when a student turns something in? And also, this is a great thing to discuss with your students. Students are used to, I think, always being notified when something has happened, individually, uniquely. So, you know, if you post something new in your course, or if you grade an assignment, they are not automatically going to get a notification. They need to into that. So it is a great idea to go through, either if it's an online course, make a video, or if it's a web conferencing or in-person course, to talk to them and show them how to do this and let them decide what notifications they want and how they want to be notified. Students can choose to be notified via email, but we know the students don't always check their email, or they can be notified via text, and that sometimes is a better option for our students. Now we are going to look at the course itself to see how it is organized within D2L. At the very top of your course, you're going to have the course navigation bar, or NavBar for short. And we're just going to go through what is available on that navigation bar. So you have content, and that is where really the meat of your course is going to be. And it's a great idea to refer your students to the content so they can see the organization of your course. This picture is a little blurry, but you'll see that this course is organized into weeks. If we look at maybe SSC 100, which is a course that I am teaching two sections of, you'll see this is organized into basically modules. So there's module 1, 2, and 3. And it helps students understand the direction of the course, the pace of the course, but students don't always go to this content area. If we have, for example, this course, I've put a calendar up and I've got all my assignments here on the right. And I just had a student email me, the one that emailed me 11 o'clock. They wanted to know, do they have to do the self-directed search? And if so, where do they find it? Because all they were doing was looking at the calendar and they saw there's an assignment, but they didn't know, this is a reflection, they didn't know where is the other part of that assignment? Where is the reflection referring to? Well, that's because they didn't go into the content and kind of follow along with the timeline of the course, or else they would see right here, self-directed search. So referring your students back to content can be really useful and helpful, that they can see how the course is organized in the context, as opposed to just seeing assignments here and there without any idea of what they're supposed to do or why they're supposed to be doing them. For activities, and so students will often go here as well to look at what they need to do. So they might go right to assignments, discussions, quizzes. So again, just remind them that there's probably going to be some context there that they would want to know before they start the quiz. Perhaps they should read the chapter that it's about, for example. Tools So this is where you're going to be a lot, I think, as an instructor. You want to maybe post announcements, take attendance, provide awards, look at the class list or the discussions. And so all of these tools that are built into D2L are available right here. Grades, always fun for teacher and student alike. And then the course admin, this allows you to kind of see all in one place a lot of the different actions you can take in D2L. So while there's a place to go and get grades, you can also get grades here. While you can look at the class list through tools, you can also get it here. So if you're not sure where something is located on the NavBar, going right to admin and course admin and doing it under name so it's alphabetical is probably the easiest task.
And also, if you don't see very many tools here, notice there's categories and name. If
Right.
you don't see very many options, click on the other button because it'll open up the other window. So sometimes you might just see one tool palette rather than seeing all of them.
Again, we have help. In every course on the homepage, we always have that help option. We do have virtual tech support at Dell Tech provided through Zoom. So if your students are having trouble, maybe they lost their password or they can't access something that they need to access, this is a great place to send them and to refer them to. And then they can also fill out a ticket, which is the bottom left there, student technology support. The trick with Zoom is if you don't have your password, you can't log into the Zoom because you can't get on my DTCs. So in that case, sometimes referring to a ticket is the best. And then for employees who are having trouble, perhaps you're having a quiz and it's just not working the way that you want it to work, then submitting a ticket, it will come to CCIT and we will be able to help you troubleshoot and figure out why that quiz isn't working the way you want it to. This is an example of one of the widgets that you can put on your course homepage. So as we discussed, we have a D2L homepage that has all of your courses and kind of college-wide widgets like CCIT announcements. Then for each course, you also are able to set up your course homepage. So if you want students to right away see announcements, then you want to put that widget on your homepage. And I can just show you again an example. Here is this homepage for SSC 100. We have announcements here that are in descending, that's not the right word, but they are the most recent to the oldest. It's like Facebook. So I first posted a welcome announcement and then I posted an announcement to show them, because since this is a completely online course, a video about me and then a video about the course. I also have a calendar widget here. So like I said, students can see exactly what assignments are due and when. And then I did an instructor widget because a lot of times students don't want to wade through getting started. So I just put myself there on the front page. So this is more advanced, but I'm just going to give you a little hint, a little taste of what you can do in the future. If you want to change your homepage, you go right here to manage homepages or edit this homepage. So I've already edited, but I can move around my widgets. So let's say I wanted my announcements to go over here and I wanted my calendar to go over here. I could do that. I'm not going to do that though, because that's crazy making. So I'm just going to cancel. But just know that you can personalize your homepage for students. But again, let them know that you've done that. Students don't always know to stop and smell the roses. They don't always know to look at the homepage. They don't always know there's important information there. They don't always even really know that there's a homepage. So if you point that out to students and you tell them it's important and you show it to them, that's going to go a long way to making sure that they see the information that you want them to see. Okay. So as we discussed, you can put other widgets on your course homepage, just depending on what you want to be there. And then for students, they are going to have here on the bottom right, my course evaluation. So at the end of every semester, they're going to be prompted to evaluate the course and the instructor. And if they don't know where to find it, is actually at the bottom right of their of the course homepage for that. Tricks of D2L is to think about how students are going to view what you're presenting, because they really are our ultimate audience. So the best way to find out is to look at the course through the student view. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. We have a little picture here, but I'll just show you in real life that if you're in your course and you go up to this beautiful picture that you posted of yourself, you can choose view as student. And what this will do is it will show you exactly what the course looks like to the student. So sometimes course content has been hidden previously by maybe another creator or by yourself because you didn't want students to see something right away. So if students say, well, I can't find my self-directed search, if it's not here, if the student can't see it, then it's probably hidden, and that's why. And this actually brings us to a bigger discussion, which is how students are accessing their courses to begin with. So we might imagine that our students are sitting there, it's a lovely fall afternoon, the sunlight is streaming through the windows, and they are at their desk with no other distractions at a very large, laptop or desktop, away on their papers for D2L. In reality, that is probably not the case for many of our students. Research tells us that most of our students are using their mobile devices to access their learning management system. So instead of that desk, they've got this tiny little screen. As an instructor, it's really important for you to know what does that course look like to your student however they're accessing it. So the best thing to do is ask students. You could take a survey, you could have a discussion, but find out from them, how do they plan on doing their work in the course? And if 90% of students are using a mobile device, then you may have to pivot a little when it comes to the mode of some of your assignments. There's also available the Pulse app. So the Pulse app is the D2L or Brightspace app. I don't know why everything has to have a different name, but it does. Download that onto their either their Android or their iPhone. And I would suggest you download it onto your phone. I have done it to mine so that I can see what the students see within the app. It does not look exactly the same as if you were on a laptop or desktop, or even if you were just on the phone looking at the browser. So you want to kind of experiment a little to see how these different things look, when you're on them for your students, and also asking your students how they plan to access their courses. Now at Del Tech, we do have computer labs. We do have the library that has computer access, and we also have a laptop loaning program for students who do not have laptops, but that doesn't provide internet access. So a student may not have a laptop and they may also not have internet access at home. So a laptop may only get them so far. But finding out what your students are doing and then at least making some suggestions or saying, what Del Tech has to offer is going to go a long way in making everyone's life easier, because you're going to be able to kind of meet the students where they are and say, okay, if you are writing a paper on a phone, this is what we're going to do, or this is how we're going to handle it. App or the student view. Okay, so topic 3 is where we get to, how can we as instructors do stuff in D2L? How can we add things? How can we change things? There are 2 actually versions or options in D2L. There's the new content and the classic content. And you'll say new content looks a little different. It has kind of rectangles and little tab here, and the old content just has the list, or classic content, sorry. So you can choose either one, but when you're adding information, we recommend that you use classic content, just as easier. So if you are not in classic content, what you want to do is go to your course homepage, go to content, and then you're going to choose this down arrow right here. And I can show you what that's going to look like in D2L. We go to our course, we go to content, and there's this little down arrow here, and it says, do I want to turn on the new content experience? And if I had it, it would say, do I want to turn it off? And so I'm just going to leave it off for right now so that we can see how to add things in D2L under the classic.
Now,
and I'm actually, go ahead, Sarah.
It might be important to note also that when it asks you, if you're in the new and you choose to go to the classic, it will ask you why, but you are not compelled to tell it why. You don't have to give an answer. You can just skip out of that. I just want people to know that they don't have to feel like all this pressure. Well, why do I want to change? Do I have to tell them? No, you don't have to tell them. It's okay.
You do not have to justify yourself to D2L at all. So as we go further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tool around in my sandbox. Each instructor should get a sandbox in D2L. Now, sometimes it doesn't happen automatically. So if you are in your courses and you don't have a sandbox, then we're going to put in a ticket with CCIT, and our friend Adrian's going to create a sandbox for you. But what the sandbox does is it allows you to try things out without messing up an active course. And your sandbox typically has, your username as part of it. So mine is Case Sparks. And apologies to Guns N' Roses, but welcome to my sandbox. We've got them in games, right? And I mean, this is how bad these guys looked in the 80s. So I can't even imagine what a current picture would look like. But anyway, so that's where I'm going to be to kind of play around here as we go a little further in the presentation. We're going to build. So one of the first things that happens typically if you are given a course to teach is that you have to go in and personalize the course, provide that instructor information and other, maybe the course schedule. So we're going to talk about how do you personalize information. So here, most courses now at Del Tech have a getting started module, and you go to the content in the course and you go to getting started, and it's going to have information like the schedule, the syllabus, and the instructor information. So what we're going to do is look at how do we modify instructor information. So if you want to modify an existing page, you're going to go to it. So I'm just going to show you in my sandbox how that looks. Here's my sandbox. I'm going to go to content. So this is a template that our own Jason Silverstein has made, and it's beautiful, that many courses just automatically put in for instructor information. And so this makes it easy because then you can just follow the directions to modify it to look like you instead of like some sort of serial killer that they haven't caught yet. So we're going to follow along here with these directions. So we are choosing the page that we want to modify. And what we are going to do is whenever you want to modify a page, you're actually going to choose edit HTML, which sounds very scary. You're like, I don't know HTML. I don't know how to do this. But it really is very simple. If I can do it, you can do it too. Okay, why does it look like this stuff? Oh, you know why? So I'm here and I'm like, I can't do anything because I am still acting as a student, and the student would not have permission to change the page. So if for some reason you're looking and you're like, I don't have the tools I usually have, it's possible that you put yourself as a student and you forgot to take yourself out, which is what I did. So we're going to X out of that, and then it's going to make me, it always makes you go back to the homepage when that happens. So we're going to go back to content and we're going to search again because I don't know where that page is. Ah, here we go. Okay. So round two, aha, now I can edit this HTML and change it a little to make it my own. So again, we're just following the steps that are in this presentation, which we will share with you. So you'll see now I can select things, I can delete things. I will be able to put in, for example, my office location, my email. I don't know my phone number yet, so we're going to leave that. Pauline's got to give it to me. My student hours. And now maybe I'm an adjunct and I don't have student hours. That's okay. All you're going to do, you're going to click on this table, and then up here, there's a plus and a minus. You're just going to hit minus and it takes the table right away and you don't have to worry about it. So we might not have student hours. And then we might want to tell students how to get in contact with us. So if the best way is email, you just tell that. Going through, I can save my work, and then I can look to see that it's being updated, right? So the changes that I am making are now in the course. And again, all I'm doing is going up here at HTML. You can also go at the bottom I tend to be at the bottom, but another thing is to replace the picture. And so we'll look at the directions for that, and then we'll talk about that in a second. So they were deleting the same stuff I was deleting. So if you want to replace your picture, we're going to, it says you get the blue box, you press delete on your keyboard, and then you're going to insert your picture. Now, the challenge is, do I have a picture on this computer that I can insert? Well, maybe, maybe not. So what I'm going to do, let's find a picture of myself online. I'm going to write, let's see if I can just save this for my LinkedIn. Sometimes we have to do what we have to do. So I'm going to save this as a headshot on the desktop. Okay, now I have a picture. So I can go here. I'm in my instructor page. I'm editing my HTML. I'm going to follow the directions. It said click on this box, hit delete. And then up here, we're going to add content. We're going to insert an image. I'm going to go to my computer. And I saved it right on my desktop so I wouldn't get lost. And just follow along with whatever it tells you to do. Hit add. And then we always want to add alternative text when you're providing any sort of image, because if a student is using a screen reader, if they're visually impaired, they can't see the picture. So we want to make sure that we describe the picture so that they know what it is. So I'm just going to say Carrie Ann Sparks headshot. Okay. And then I'm going to put my name, and I'm just going to save it to see how does it look. There we go. And then I can make the picture bigger or smaller. That was a tiny picture that I stole from LinkedIn. But just like if you're in Word or any other, program, you just go and drag those sides out. I can make it a little bigger, but you see it's starting to get a little blurry because it was a tiny image. And the easiest thing, if you don't have a LinkedIn, get your phone, take a picture of yourself, email it to yourself, upload it to D2L. Any questions about modifying existing information? The basic thing to remember, I know I just didn't even give you a chance to answer the question, but the basic thing to remember is you're going in and editing HTML. But any questions? Now I will pause.
Just a quick note, when you see it says edit HTML, it's actually editing the page, the text on the page, rather than the actual HTML. So some people I know get nervous when they see, ooh, edit HTML. There is a session after ours where it's Jason's going to talk about the basics of editing HTML. But don't panic. You're not actually editing the code right in front of you. You are modifying just what you see. What you see is what you get, what they call it. So you're modifying in that form, just like you would in a Word document or a PowerPoint.
See Anne's question in the bottom. She said, what if there's multiple instructors? And we do have that, so I can show you an example of how that looks, but we can help you with the template. Carrie Curry and I are teaching a class together, or helping a class, and Laura and I are teaching us. So there's actually two options. So, and they're both here. So first, you could just have each person have their own page. So that's what Laura and I did in this course. We have meet your IDTG1 instructor, Laura Thompson, and meet your instructor, Carrie Ann Sparks. So we've just created two pages, one for each instructor. In the other course, we have a beautiful page with a beautiful banner that Carrie created. And we have both of us listed there. So Carrie is first alphabetically and just in life, and then myself. So you can do it either way. You can have one page for each person, or you can combine information, and we can show you how to do that. Like Al said, and Laura said, that's like a little bit more complicated, but not scary task. Any other questions before we? Okay, so now what if we want brand new stuff? I know Anne wants to know, how do we add brand new stuff? There's not a page already there. I want to add a module or a submodule to my course. So you want to think about, how is the course set up to make it make sense for where you're adding information. So do you have modules? Do you have weeks? Do you have units? So in many courses we have modules, and D2L, that's the term they use, is a module for each of those labels. So again, we're going to go back to content. It's always where we want to be. And you will see at the very bottom, there's going to be the option, add a module. So we will look at that in our sandbox course. So we go to content, and you'll see I got all kinds of crazy stuff in here. But here at the very bottom, we're going to able to add a module. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to create just the name that module, right? Name that module. And we're going to hit enter, and we have successfully added a module to our course. And so if you look down at the very bottom, it's always going to end up at the bottom. There's new modules. So here, my module, I've named it. And now I'm going to probably want to put some information in there, but we're going to follow our directions again. So we've added the module. And then we can upload information. We can upload files, we can upload presentations, we can upload videos, and we want it to make sense. We don't want there to be something just there and it doesn't make sense to students. So when you think about a module, you really want to think about that you're telling a story. What is the story of this part of your course? And then make sure that you build the information so that it tells a story as opposed to here's just a bunch of things that students are going to need to look at. Okay, so you want to choose here. I think we're first going to upload. We've got a submodule, and then we're going to upload information into that submodule. So we can go back and look at that. So upload and create. This part I didn't plan. So in miscellaneous, let's do my transition document from my old job to my new job. Okay, and so we'll see that here in our name that module, now we've got a submodule, which is this document. Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense to students, right? They're going to have no idea why I put this in there. So we would want to have some sort of description for what this document is, some kind of context for it. But this is how you at least get it. And then we look at, kind of instructional design wise, why it's there and what we want to put around it. And so here we kind of skipped this step, but here is how do you get documents like PowerPoints and Word into D2L. So again, you go into the module that you want to add it in, you choose upload files, you find that file on your computer and you upload it and add it, and you see, just like we did, it's there. And then we want to add some context to it. This was a PowerPoint, and you can add PowerPoints into D2L and have them be then, accessed right through D2L. So the student doesn't have to open the PowerPoint program. And it can also be printed, downloaded, and open using a doc reader. And I think those are really important things to point out. Some students really like to have paper. And so if you have a bunch of PowerPoint presentations, they may want to print them out so they can really look at them as they would any other document. So make sure you let students know that right here in D2L, and you can see at the bottom, they have the option. So you have the option to print right from D2L. Excuse me, you also have the option to download the information. So maybe the student doesn't necessarily need it printed, but they want to have access to it on their computer without having to go through all the clicks of getting back to D2L. And then, it can be used as a doc reader. So if you do have a student maybe who is visually impaired, or maybe just learns better by listening, they can use that tool in D2L to have the document read to them. Students are probably not going to, they're not going to discover these things on their own. So that's why it's helpful for us to be here and point them out. And then we can also add a video. So if we're going to talk and then we'll go back and look at it. But rather than choosing upload and choose files, we're going to choose upload and then choose a video. And following the same steps, add that video into our course. Remembering that we don't want to just put a link up there. We want to tell students what it's for and why we're adding it. But then the video will display right in D2L, or they can also choose, as you can see here, it says watch on YouTube. You can also choose to go in and watch on YouTube if you want it bigger. Sometimes when it's in D2L, not quite as big as one would want. So again, we go back, we're still in that name that module because we're putting all of our crazy stuff here. And so we're going to upload then a video. I have a ton of wonderful videos about APA if anyone is interested in viewing them. So here's maybe I want students to watch this APA video. Excuse me. So I am going to choose share, and I'm going to copy that link. And I am going to paste that link there. And I'm going to give it a title so we know what it is, formatting an APA. I'm going to click save. And right there in my course is this video, very, very gripping video about how to write an APA paper. And we'll see that again, because I added it under this name, that module, it is all right there. Again, we'd want to provide context, but this is how to at least get it on D2L and then provide information for our students to know why it's there and what we want them to do with it.
And I put a link in the chat about adding videos to your course with context so that it can show you how you can add it to a page. So if you want to be able to go kind of the next step, you'll be able to follow those directions for that.
Thanks so much, Laura. So one of the other tools in D2L is that they do leave us some breadcrumbs so that we know where we are. And they look like this, where you've got the different sections and then a little arrow pointing to module, submodule, content. And the reason this is helpful is because sometimes if you use the back button at D2L, it goes to unexpected places and you might get a little lost. So when you're in D2L and you've come here, and maybe we've gone to this third page within it, it's going to show me where I am and what I need to do to get back. So if I go here and I get a little lost, I can go back to find out what am I supposed to be doing. Another thing that's helpful to show students, because students don't always know the best way to navigate D2L, and they just start hitting the back button, they get lost and they give up. We don't want that. So when you're done adding content, if you want to turn on the new content experience, you can, or you can leave it as classic. And that's something that maybe your department wants to discuss, to say, how do we as a department want to organize our courses? But you have the option to do either. So you could turn it on or you can leave it off. So we talked about navigating D2L. We talked about exploring our course. We talked about adding content. And there's a million more things we could talk about in D2L. Some other D2L resources. So I don't know if you want to, couldn't you just add that list to the chat, Laura? Would that be okay? Maybe, I don't know.
This
Add
list?
this. Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. And we are happy to share this presentation with you. And this is also being recorded. So if you would like to watch all over again, that is going to be an option as well. But we have all of these other places that you can go to get more information about D2L, to ask questions, and to see, what else you can do with this tool. So feel free to check out not only this list, but then also CCIT's website for more information. Do you want to tell people how to save the chat?
So now you've got all this wonderful information that we've been adding both with the video and also with the text chat. But if you've ever done it before, if you look at the bottom of your chat window, you'll see it says to, and then it has everyone or a message area. But all the way over to the right, it's got actually 3 little dots. That's when you leave your cursor on it for a second, it says more. When you click on that more, the first option is save chat. And when you save chat, what it does is it actually saves it to your local computer, puts it inside the Zoom folder, and date stamps it. So basically it says the session that you're in and the time date stamp that's associated with it. So you actually have that entire text chat that we had for this session. And if you open this up in Word, all the links that are in here actually become hyperlinks again. So just to let you know that if you are going and just overwhelmed by any Zoom session where they allow you to save the chat, at the end of the session, you can always just save the chat and you can reference it later.
Yep.
It's important to note that it saves it at the moment that you choose save. So you can't set it up at the beginning of the session to save the chat. You have to save it at the end if you're trying to capture everything that was provided for you during the session. Just to put that out there.
And a little tip.
We get used to Google or Word where we work together online and we capture everything that's new. I just want you to know it's a snapshot at that moment.
And I actually save chats at several times throughout sessions. So if I find something that was really interesting, I'll save a chat at that point. And that way I'll see like a snapshot from all the way running up to that session. And then when I see a little bit further, see something else, I'll save chat. And so what it'll do is it'll give me the full spectrum of the conversation up to that moment. I can scan down at the bottom and see that's the item that I was most interested in at that moment.